All right, we're live. Thanks for coming to episode 7. We're going to do it a little different today, going through all the different European soccer leagues. But I actually haven't looked at the lines yet, so I'm going to basically reveal what my guesses are and see how off I am. It's usually pretty nerve-wracking for someone who makes lines to put out there and into the public without screening them first. But that's life, and that's how we're doing it today. Also, college basketball is eating a lot into shorter preparation for soccer, but I'm still putting the time in, so don't you worry about that. So we start in England, as we do every week, most expensive league out there, so I guess we got to do it. They had a COVID casualty this week with Aston Villa against Newcastle being canceled due to an outbreak at Newcastle. Skip that one and we'll jump right into Burnley and Everton. So I had Everton giving half a goal on the road at Burnley. Burnley hasn't been able to score. They're looking a little bit better lately, getting a little bit healthier, but still have not been pretty. That's actually what the line is. So 1 for 1 so far, and guesses will not be tabulating that, as I'm sure it will not look good by the end of this as we go through the top 5 leagues in Europe. Everton, they've been scoring better. They've gotten a bunch of players back from injury and suspension, so that's been helpful. Not a lot that I want to do here, as I doubt I'll be on the dog. Going to try to go a little quicker today, as I'm sure everyone wants to watch UConn and USC from some casino in Connecticut. Next is Man City hosting Fulham. Should be a blowout. Man City looked like they got a little bit right last week against Burnley. So maybe strike anything nice I said about Burnley a second ago. I think it ended 5-0, maybe 4-0. It was a lot too little. Anyway, I have Man City giving 2 full goals to Fulham. City's been able to rest people during the week, so midweek games aren't as big of a deal, though they are still playing some of their important players in those matches. Got a goal chalked off and ended up drawing 0-0, which was pretty unimpressive, and I'm sure they were disappointed with, especially after a good showing at the weekend. They're still way behind where they should be in the league right now, so should be out for blood, and would imagine a pretty full lineup even with an early start. 2.5 is the number right here, so yeah, I'm already 1 right, 1 half goal off, which is pretty extreme in soccer, but then again, not so much in City games. I'm not interested in backing Fulham and jumping in front of that train. I think there's been a lot of value going against Man City this year. It's probably been pretty profitable so far, but that's not for me tomorrow or this weekend, excuse me, especially not even make a penalty. West Ham hosting Manchester United. United with such a great comeback win, maybe a little luck involved, but certainly played themselves into a hole at Southampton, came back, ended up tying the game and then winning in extra time. Should have been a lot of momentum where they only needed a draw, or really could have lost 1-0 or 2-1 and still been at least even with PSG, and then likely in a better position based on goal differential. Yet a late goal that they conceded, or a pretty awful performance, including a bad red card for a player who shouldn't even been on the field. Ole's got a lot of questions to answer, and he hasn't, but that shouldn't be surprising. I have Man U giving 3/4 of a goal to West Ham, which would be surprising, but not based on how this team gets bet consistently, even though they haven't shown very well so far this year. They've been on a bit of an uptick and have done well winning road games or road matches most recently. But West Ham got Michail Antonio back. He didn't do much in his first match, and they should have drawn a very fortunate offside by the logo on a shirt sleeve, and then also a missed penalty got them the full 3 points from Aston Villa on Monday, which was nice. Manchester United is coming off that midweek game. It was pretty draining. They had to play with 10 men. Cavani played the whole way, which he hadn't been doing yet, so I wonder if he even starts this weekend. Anyway, onto that line. Manchester United giving a half right now, so I'm a little high on that, but they're in the plus odds round, giving a half goal on the road. So I think it might close close to that 3/4 number that I made. I think you can only look at the West Ham side, but no reason to jump in quickly because people bet Manchester United, they bet the big sides. That's how it goes. Next is Chelsea at Leeds, or at home against Leeds, excuse me. Chelsea's been crushing it. 2 really weak lineups were used in Champions League for 2 sides that already clinched their berth into the next round. Chelsea's second line is much stronger than Sevilla's, hence the the whooping that really came about. But I made Chelsea a 1.5 favorite against Leeds. They're only a goal at Bet Online, though it's pretty juiced right now. It's still fairly off from what I was expecting. Leeds has been getting, I mean, they have a lot of backing, they have a big fan base, and it's been a long time since they were in the Premier League. But they really leave themselves open at the back so much. And I think Chelsea's just the team to take advantage of that. Plus, Chelsea's been playing so well. They don't concede any goals anymore now that Kepa is on the bench. And they didn't have to play Thiago Silva this week in midweek. So they should be pretty fresh in the back as well. I think Leeds is going to have real problems scoring, and they're going to give up at least one goal. So I would lean the Chelsea way. I'm not a favorites player, so that won't be on my list. But maybe FPL plays, you might want to add a Chelsea goal scorer. We'll see if Giroud plays. I think he should be in there over Tammy Abraham, who doesn't seem anywhere near as intimidating or scary, but maybe that's an age thing or a growth thing. Like, we'll see what happens. Then moving till Sunday, I have the opener, which everyone's going to wake up for, West Brom hosting Crystal Palace. I made this actually a straight pick 'em with an interest towards Crystal Palace based on West Brom's kind of struggles just throughout this season. Looks like it's right on pick 'em right now with Crystal Palace having the juice. So not a lot for me to do here or interest in there. Maybe Zaha returns for Crystal Palace, and that probably swings the line even a little bit more. I'm not sure on his status just yet, but was looking and hoping really that Crystal Palace might get dogged here, but it doesn't appear that the market is being that sly this week with that one. Next is Sheffield United hosting Leicester. Leicester's been struggling pretty poorly, playing pretty poorly the last few weeks, ever since coming back from international break and getting whooped by Liverpool. They haven't really done much, and it's been pretty gross, including today in the Europa League, losing to a team I can't even pronounce, Zora Luhansk or something. That's based on how Poppy Miller was pronouncing on CBS, so who knows. But losing pretty badly, playing pretty poorly in the Premier League, and then kind of coupling that with some bad performances in Europa League is not a good way to get off a snide. And Sheffield, they can't score those. Leicester, this might not be the team to really exploit Leicester. I made Leicester a three-quarter goal favorite on the road. Looks like they're a half a goal favorite with the juice on the other side. So they look a little cheap to me, maybe based on their performance recently, but I'm not interested in Sheffield. I mean, best thing you can hope for is they get a penalty, don't miss it, and score one goal that way. But if Leicester does anything, with Vardy does anything, they're going to have real trouble keeping up. So that's a pass for me. Then Tottenham in a North London derby, giving a half to Arsenal is my projection here. Just exactly what it is. Arsenal can't score. Tottenham's playing pretty well, despite not having a lot of offense cells. Sitting top of the table, I think you got to expect that they win this match. Arsenal hasn't done much besides today in Europa League. So pass on that one for me as well. Then Liverpool hosting Wolves. This could be a good one. Really sorry to see the injury to Raul Jimenez last week. Wolves are still pretty talented and have some depth despite selling off a lot of players in the offseason. Liverpool, they've been teeter-tottering. They've been, I think, outperforming in games where people thought they were going to lose. And then maybe not performing so well against inferior competition. I don't think the 1-0 against Ajax was that impressive, but I'm expecting Wolves might be catching near a goal here. I bet 3/4 on my guess, and it looks like Liverpool is a juiced -1. So that's pretty large to me. I'm definitely leaning the Wolves' way with that whole full goal of insurance. I mean, that's a huge number. Maybe Liverpool gets an own goal and goes off to the races like they did against Leicester. But it's going to be hard for me to lay off catching a full goal with a pretty good defensive side like Wolves, with really, really big players at the back that are great at preventing goals from the air. And I imagine they sit back and play a little bit more conservatively to try to keep quiet Salah, Sané, and now Diogo Jota, who scores every match, it seems. Another guy added an FPL last week, I think might be good for most people to grab. And then we move to Monday, Brighton and Hove Albion hosting Southampton. Southampton's got to be reeling off a pretty bad blowing a 2-0 lead at halftime, and really 2-goal lead through an hour against Man United. Not even to get a point is pretty disappointing, especially if they're trying to stay in top half of the table for my future bet. But I have it at straight pick'em, which is what it is right now, with Brighton having the juice, though. So that interests me a little bit, as I don't think Brighton's very good. They've done well with possessing the ball this season, but that hasn't meant anything because they're pretty open for counterattacks, struggle to score, whether unlucky or lucky, and they seem to give up a lot of penalties. They got one luckily at the end against Liverpool last week, and that kind of saved them a point, which is pretty impressive based on where they're sitting table versus Liverpool. But Southampton, their defense has been playing pretty well after a pretty poor start to the season. They really missed Danny Ings, but at Pick'em right now, it interests me. Maybe if it trickles down to a quarter, I might get involved. But for right now, pick. I'm certainly waiting to see what happens. And that's the first. That's the English Premier League. So guesses weren't so bad on that one. We'll see. You're going to go to Spain next, and that would be a whole difficult thing, as it seemed like I was circling every underdog in every game possible. Crushed the Liga after the lockdown last season. Have not done as well this time, but hoping to turn that around if I can in the near future. Really would like to financially. That would be a huge boost. Okay, so as soon as I get there, as soon as my computer wakes up. Okay, so starting the week off with tomorrow with Bilbao hosting, Athletic Club hosting Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo, I think, was pretty fortunate to get out with a win against Granada on Sunday, I want to say it was, later in the weekend last week. Granada couldn't really, Granada couldn't take their chances to take a lead in the second half, and then Celta Vigo did it once and then added an insurance goal late when Granada was pressing. Some weird fights / red card stuff at the end was not good, and I think they'll be missing at least one player due to suspension. But Bilbao's been playing pretty well. Athletic Club, they generally have seemed to struggle scoring in the past year. Defense has been pretty solid, though, and their offense has been better of late. So that's a side I'd like. I made them a quarter favorite. I imagine it won't be on my card. Yeah, that's the number right now. And I don't like Celta Vigo. I don't like I think they switched coaches, which they needed to do. Still think that they're a team that underperforms. They get a lot of chances that they don't seem to put on net, and then you see all the cameras cutting to people crying about it, basically covering their faces. So no interest there for me. Next one is Levante hosting Getafe. Getafe has kind of been middling. They're a tough opponent that's going to really squeeze you and play really physically, which I think will work against Levante, whose offense has been not as good as it was after the restart when they were a cash cow every week. Levante, I think, is towards the bottom, maybe in the relegation battle right now if the season ended today. So they need this one, but I made it a pick'em, and it looks like, that's how it starts on Saturday morning with the juice on the Getafe side, which I think is reasonable. Next is Sevilla hosting Real Madrid, who Real Madrid is in a major tailspin right now. Sergio Ramos still isn't back. Defense looks lost. Offense doesn't look so good. Did return in the midweek, but they were shut out in the Ukraine with like flurries coming down the whole time. They're in big trouble for the Champions League and likely need to potentially rest some player. I mean, it depends what they're going for here. Are you going for Champions League or are you going for La Liga? Because, I mean, it seems like they're going for Champions League if they bring Benzema back midweek with a big match in I guess that's the more recent, or that's the one that's on the knife edge first, if you will, because they got a lot of time to make up La Liga play. Still concerned about exactly what they're going with. Zidane, can't question him. He's done so well, but his team has not been playing well. They seem to be aging, and they don't really bring anybody in. Loaned out some young players, and I think they're in so far. I made Sevilla pick them at home. They got to rest people in the midweek after clinching, moving on to the next round thanks to a pretty easy group. Got smashed by Chelsea, but really didn't bring on their best players until the second half. So they should be in a much better rested position, assuming some of the big names like Hazard, Ramos don't return for Real Madrid. Yeah, Sevilla with pick them with the juice. Interesting. Real Madrid, the lines in La Liga have been catching up to them. I remember Villarreal getting a lot more respect. I think that's when a lot of the injuries and absences really came up. But I had Sevilla circled, hoping that Real Madrid would catch some love that they always do. And Sevilla do really well in the matches against the best teams in La Liga. Not so lucky just now, but I'm certainly holding out hope that some of that same day money, because it always seems to flow in on the big clubs, that maybe that comes in there. Next is Atleti hosting Valladolid. I have Atleti giving a goal and a quarter, but circled Valladolid here because I think that they're playing a lot better than people expected. They're always a defensive side, but they've been showing a little bit of attacking prowess and have been really taking their chances to score. And it seems like it always shocks the broadcasters, which for good reason, because they're not expected to be very good and haven't been, I think, for years. But they stay in the league, and I think matches like these are the big ones where they can maybe pull out a draw or maybe somehow steal a win, and then it sets them up while the rest of the league is struggling and certainly doesn't seem to get a point at Atleti, who seems to be in control of La Liga at the moment. I made a goal and a quarter, so that's pretty large, but not that big considering what Atleti's been giving. This has it right at a goal and a quarter with the juice in the Valladolid side. I imagine that changes. People should be betting Atleti because that seems to be what happens. Not going to say that again so people don't get nauseous, but definitely like the Valladolid side at a goal and a quarter. And then I think we move to the nightcap on Saturday. That's Cadiz hosting Barcelona. Circle Cadiz here, expecting them to get a goal, probably higher than that, based on Barcelona being able to rest some players during the week. We'll see what happens. Cadiz started off really hot, played a really, really bad game against Atletico Madrid and fell behind 2-0 really early. They played pretty well against Sociedad last week, but eventually Sociedad found the net, and that was the only goal in the game. I think Cadiz is slightly better than some of the teams I've been backing against Barcelona lately. It hasn't gone as well this season as it did last year when I seemed to win every bet, which is probably why I did so well in the Liga. But it looks like the number is actually above 1 right now, so that's interesting, and probably grow because Barcelona, I think, is the most bet club in world football that I've paid attention to. So getting a goal and a quarter is nice on Cadiz. No reason to jump in now, and we'll consider what to look for with that one. Want to make sure that Ledesma, their goalkeeper's in, who's definitely been on the hook for some bad mistakes lately, but I think generally plays a pretty important role in success, especially against a side like Barcelona. But goal and a quarter is nice, and it's better than what I was expecting. Then we move to Granada hosting Huesca. Huesca's at the bottom. They have been struggling. They do have a decent striker in Rafa Mir who can score when he has an opportunity. I think the problem is they don't have many opportunities. Granada lost today against a pretty talented, big-name Eindhoven side from Holland, though they kind of struggle with, I think, their age is probably significant. And then also lost Denzel Dumfries on a pretty gruesome friendly fire from his goalkeeper running into him. Anyway, back to this. I had Granada giving 3/4 of a goal and liked Huesca ultimately. Yeah, I'm way off. Looks like it's just a quarter, and the juice is on the Huesca side. I think people are recognizing that Granada is spreading out between Europa League play and La Liga. I thought they deserved better last week, but ended up going down, didn't play very good defense, and I think that's happened a few times so far this year. Huesca getting only a quarter isn't enough for me probably to be involved, but we'll see what happens with money flowing in. Next, Osasuna hosting Betis. Betis, I don't know if it's their management, but they are clearly a bad defensive team that still puts their defense in really troublesome positions and tries to push forward. Their offense is better than their defense, but that's not saying much because their defense is horrible. And unfortunately, when your defense is bad, putting yourself in positions where you have to take chances. And it seems like Mark Patra gives away a penalty kick every match I watch that he plays. So happened on Monday in a match that they were expected to beat Eibar by, I think they were a 3/4 favorite, didn't win the match, and it wasn't really particularly close in my opinion. Osasuna at home, though, I think is going to still be looked at a little negatively. They've been playing pretty poorly, and I've been learning that the hard way, backing them quite a bit. Got hit by a pretty good Barcelona side last weekend. Who knows if the emotions behind Messi's performance were significant in focusing Barcelona, but Osasuna was kind of dead from the beginning. But I made Betis minus a quarter because they seem to always be favored, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's straight pick 'em. So maybe La Liga lines are getting a little bit better this week, but not interested there. But maybe if it climbs to a quarter, there would be some. Next, Villarreal hosting Elche. I made Villarreal a goal and a quarter. Elche's been great. They don't score really much. If they do, then you're in really good shape if you back them. But I circled them at a goal and a quarter, as I think that they're really tiny keepers, like 5'10", 5'11". He plays really well. He seemed to come through an injury risk or doubt, was available and plays really well. And he's money. I like having money behind him. They struggled against, speaking of Betis, a couple of weekends ago. I think a good game plan coming out of the Betis offense really is what did it. But they tightened up over the long balls that were kind of putting them in peril, and have been playing better. They've been, I think, shocking the world a little bit based on their performances so far this season. I like them getting a goal and a quarter, and it looks like they're even getting a goal and a half. So certainly a side I like, and will continue to have some interest in. Villarreal, they have a good offense, and they're going to be pushing forward, but certainly some questions about their defense, and Elche is literally built to try and counterattack, so it might be a good setup for them. And even if they lose by a goal, that's enough to cover that spread. Then Alaves hosting Sociedad. Real Sociedad, I believe, is still in first in the La Liga. Very talented, great team. I think struggled a little bit offensively last year, haven't had those problems this year, and that's why they sit where they are in the table. Alaves has been big win against Real Madrid last week, probably still partying till hopefully not tonight. Hopefully they've stopped that, but that was a pretty impressive win. Maybe a deserved one. They got an early penalty, and that always swings things for sure. I made them a goal underdog at home, which might be a little high. But Sociedad right now, given 3/4, and the juice seems to be on the Alaves side. So it's been pretty disrespectful to Alaves recently, and that's probably why I put that there. But yeah, it looks like I'm wishful thinking at +1. Looks like it might even close a half, which I'm not sure that's enough for me, but I'll think about that. Next is, and I think last but not least for Spain this week, is Eibar hosting Valencia. Eibar's been playing great. They did a lot of work at the end of the transfer window, adding players via loan, and they kind of turned around a pretty sore start to the season. Valencia has been losing players even after transfer windows, because I guess you can still move players in Spain. They just can't play in European teams, but doesn't matter for Valencia because they're not eligible, or they're not playing in anything in Europe, which is a big step down for them. They've sold a lot of players. Defense is really young for Valencia, and they have not been very good. They're tightening up a little bit, but still have that attacking talent, but pretty unimpressive from my point of view. And I made it a pick 'em, even in Eibar's house. Eibar's got all the juice at pick 'em. Not sure I want to lay anything with them, but if they somehow move to a dog, doesn't look like it happens. But that side I'd be interested in. So that's La Liga. So England and Spain are down. Going to go into Germany next, which done a pretty good job of staying up with watching this entire league, trying to hide from spoilers, which is always difficult, especially with text messages. But I think I've done pretty well at that so far. And we got a really big match that I'll get to about halfway through the slate. And I'm excited, looking forward to a big weekend. But anyway, so start with the first Bundesliga game. Doing a little time check. I'm 23 minutes in. Time probably a little longer than I want to be, so I'll try to speed up a little bit, not to waste too much of your time. I know you really want to watch Connecticut and USC. So Spieltag number 10. Don't know what 10 is in German. Bear with me. It looks like Hertha's hosting Union in Friday match. I have Hertha giving a quarter, but like the Union side, circled that, because they've been playing pretty well. They've done some good business in the offseason, added a goalkeeper who they haven't had to use, or I guess both goalkeepers, but they brought in Aloni as a goalkeeper, haven't had to use him because Luthe has been playing really well after leaving Augsburg and coming to Union. One of the sneaky good pickups has played really well for Augsburg after the lockdown last year. But Union, I think most importantly, added Max Kruse, who's their penalty taker. Whenever he misses, he still jams in the back net off a rebound. So he's been really great. And I like them at getting a quarter if that's what we're looking at. That's where we're at. A pretty juiced quarter right now, which is something I'm trying to keep in mind because unfortunately, even if you are over 50% in this sport, juice can really get you. So I'm trying to keep that in mind and have to really like things if I'm going to play a juice like -122 here on Union, or probably about 1.75 on the Europeans. Anyway, Hertha, their defense has been a question. I think that question is still out there. The offense has been better. They've been missing John Cordoba, who they added from Köln in the, I think, late summer transfer window, toward the end of the window. But he's been out after winning a penalty. And that's, I think, affected their offense a little bit, but mostly their defense isn't good enough unless their offense is scoring a bunch. So that's the consideration here. Union's going to play defensively and be pretty, I think, serious about their defense on the road, because that's generally how they play, especially when they take the lead, then they go into a shell like a turtle. But I think Union's the side I want at a quarter. I still like it. We'll see who the line goes, juice goes. I'm not playing it anytime right now until I see rosters due to COVID, but we'll see what happens. Then moving into this weekend, Saturday, first match is Frankfurt against Dortmund. Holland out for, it looks like, until the new year. Was nice and thrown out there right before Champions League match against Lazio this week and dropped the line from -1 to a half. Significant to some, and definitely kept me off Lazio. But I had Borussia Dortmund giving a quarter on the road at Frankfurt. Frankfurt has been, I think, kind of hanging around. They're probably unhappy. I know their manager said last week was a must-win, which then they were down 2-0 after, I think, 25 minutes or maybe even sooner, which is not a great start, but ended up fighting back to get a draw. They've been doing pretty well at that, and that certainly would be interesting if they're a dog on Saturday. They're half-goal dog, which seems pretty large considering the struggles that Dortmund has been having. I mean, awful performance losing to Köln, who hasn't won forever, other than Schalke's drought. That was pretty bad. And then a questionable penalty against Lazio, but drawing there 1-1. Giving a half goal on the road at Frankfurt is a big number. The defense has been better for Dortmund this season. Offense has been questionable. Now without Haaland, Reina seems to be their assist man. He seems to be the number 10, and sometimes he's not in that lineup because it seems like they're trying to ration his minutes. I think Hummels got injured this weekend as well, so that adds some questions defensively. Meanwhile, Andre Silva is awesome for Frankfurt, and Kamada played really well in the comeback last week. I definitely like the Frankfurt side getting a half, and it probably would be on my card if that's where it closes. Then we go to Köln hosting Wolfsburg. I made it Wolfsburg -0.5. They've been playing a little bit better lately, scoring a bunch of goals. Don't know how they got to 5 last week, but pretty incredible. They gave up 3 goals and still covered the spread handily. But I haven't given a half to Köln on the road. I don't know exactly. That seems to be about what that number will be. And so there's not a lot for me there. I still don't like Köln. They seem to score off of corner kicks, the same guy, when the other team misplays it, and that's been their offense for the last 2 weeks. So I'm not sure how long that continues. I think someone might have watched film after seeing it happen 2 weeks in a row and for 3 goals. So next is Freiburg hosting Gladbach. Interesting one here. Freiburg has been they won their first match and have won since. They've taken a lot of leads, can't hold on to them. They're an offense that really relies on possession and kind of jamming the ball over the line. They need a bunch of shots on target, shots on goal, and then hopefully a few on target, and then eventually 1 or 2 may go in order to win. Somehow they got 3 against Stuttgart in that opener, but that might have been the newly promoted team in its first matchup in the big league. But Gladbach's got a really tough time. They had a really tough offside call. I hate it because no chance Habdanovic or whatever from Inter was getting to the goal. that they ruled offside for interference, basically from Brilum Bolo because he was offside and the goal crossed his path. Stupid call, stupid rule. VAR is a joke, but anyway, they've got a huge match up this week in midweek against Real Madrid. I think if they draw, they're through, but that was where they were this week, and I'm sure they've got some eyes on that one. I think Elvedi missed this weekend or this midweek due to injury. I thought he was being held out to rest last weekend, but didn't make the game, and they even brought in a central defender, or excuse me, a center defensive midfielder to cover in the center back position in midweek, and he really struggled with Lukaku, who does that to anybody, but especially against a midfielder who's trying to fill in a center back. So that's a question. I made it Freiburg getting 3/4 of a goal, even at home. Just thinking that Gladbach might be a little bit. It probably is a standard line based on what it should be based on these two teams and how they performed. But there's a lot of weight on Gladbach's shoulders, and they might be looking ahead here. It looks like they're actually only giving a half to Freiburg. I'm interested in the Freiburg side. Questions certainly about their defense and their ability to score. But if there's ever a match that Gladbach is out of a weak lineup or is concerned about getting players tired and wanting to keep people fresh, because I think this would be their first advance in the Champions League. I think that's definitely way more important to them, and it's very easy to look past a Freiburg team who's been struggling and knows they need to win. Christian Streich has been switching the lineup and starting new players, trying to find some sort of spark offensively. Maybe he'll get one this week. Certainly not a really comfortable feeling as Gladbach can counter and score really quickly. And Freiburg with the possession plays right into that, as they'll be holding on to the ball, and a mistake will go the other way, and Gladbach probably scores if that happens. But certainly getting a half, and with the emotional look-ahead type factors here, I think that's the only side you'd want in that match. Then we go to Bielefeld hosting Mainz. Mainz has been playing a lot better since falling to league bottom. Switched their style a little bit, playing a lot of defense for the counterattack, which seems to be what the smart way to play soccer in 2020 is. Plus Mateta seems to be scoring, or at least leading to a goal in every match. I'm interested in Mainz at Pick'em, because Bielefeld hasn't scored at all. Fought back to kind of challenge Leipzig, who had a look ahead to this week's midweek match in the Champions League where they needed to win. They did that. But I think Bielefeld is nowhere near as good. Their keeper makes huge mistakes, and I think they lost one of their better young defenders to injury last week. Yeah, it looks like Pick'em with the juice on Mainz side. Doesn't look like Mainz will make my card, unfortunately, but that would have been nice. And then for the big one, Bayern hosting RB Leipzig. I made it Bayern -1. Leipzig's got all to play for in midweek. They're home and need to beat Manchester United to get in. Basically, that's how they do it. That's their path. They certainly wish it could have been different, but that's where they sit. Can't imagine, because Bundesliga is more important, and they want to win that more than they want to advance from Champions League. But I think they're going to be splitting time and maybe rotating or certainly have some eyes focused elsewhere. You got to give all you can to playing Bayern. They played a strong lineup, but really struggled and without a late winner against Besiktas here in Turkey, they might be out of Champions League, really. So they were fortunate, but they're going to have a real test here versus Bayern, who played really all backups against Atleti, and will be primed and ready. I made them a goal favorite. Looks like, that's a little short, as it's a goal and a quarter. Not sure I want to have anything to do with the Leipzig side based on where their focus is, potentially split between these matches, and Bayern with a full squad, very rested when Neuer and Lewandowski didn't even travel to Madrid for the match in midweek. Then I made for Sunday, I made Werder Bremen a quarter goal favorite against Stuttgart. I like what Stuttgart's done this season. They've looked like a big club that climbed up finally to get back into the big top flight, and they look like they've been able to sustain it. They've got some injury concerns as well, but at this point, really, who doesn't? And it looks like Werder is actually, they're an underdog right now. So it's Pick'em, but with the juice on the Stuttgart side. off on that, and it looks like people are thinking along with me that Stuttgart might even be the better side here, but maybe that has something to do with giving up 5 goals to a pretty quiet offensive team like Wolfsburg last Friday. So not a lot more to say there. Then we go to Schalke hosting Leverkusen. Leverkusen is dealing with a lot of injuries. Won today and I think advanced in the Europa League, so that was nice for them. I made them a goal favorite, and that's exactly what they are with the juice on their side too. So the market's not really buying what Schalke is selling, and I can't blame them for that at all. Then we move to a Monday match, and it looks like Hoffenheim hosting Augsburg. Hoffenheim with a 0-0 draw in Europa League today. It's probably a good sign for their defense. They have kind of been leaking oil. Geiger had a red card, and he's been pretty important for them in the midfield. I'm not really sure. Augsburg was a defensive side that hasn't really played much defense this year and have really struggled to score. So not so much interest there, though they did fight back to earn a draw the last 2 matches that they've played. Hoffenheim giving a half is a lot. Grammars hasn't done much. It's also pretty juiced at the moment. If that keeps climbing, I think you got to look at the Augsburg side, though it's really not a pretty one and probably not one I want to actually touch. But Hoffenheim has not been very good at all. Certainly not convincing. And I don't know about you, but I'm certainly not interested in putting money on that side. So it'd be Augsburg or nothing for me. We'll see what happens. It's probably nothing. But you never know. See what happens. Kramaric has been struggling. He'll probably be in the lineup, but if he misses, that's a big key for them. Can't imagine what their offense looks like without him. But Augsburg really depends on how they can try to find some scoring. They've been trying to change their striking lineup, and it hasn't been going very well. So maybe we'll see what happens. And now we move to Italy, and we got two left. We're 36 minutes in, so I'm going to have to go quick here. I have much less thoughts on Serie A, but did watch Milan today fall behind 2-0 and come in 4-2, which is really sad for anybody who bet Celtic. Very glad that I did not. Okay, so all right, so opener on Saturday. Nice that there are no Friday games, but there's so many on the weekend in Italy, but cool anyway. Lazio giving 3/4 on the road at Spezia is my guess. Turns out it's a full goal, but very juiced on the Spezia side, so I think it comes close to the number that I labeled when it closes. They played well in midweek, earning a draw against Dortmund, but that's more of a result-based handicap, as I don't think they did very well in the actual gameplay. Got blown out by Udinese last weekend. Not a good sign. Did have a lot of possession, but that doesn't say a lot in this sport. Certainly would only want the Spezia side, but that's not likely to make my list. Juve giving 2 to Torino is my next guess. Torino's been playing poorly, like really poorly, so I'm not sure what to do there, though Juve has not been very good either. It's only a goal and a quarter, so I'm way off on that one. It's because I'm usually too short on big favorites, but I tried to go the other way this time, and clearly that didn't work. But way too low for me to look at Torino at this point, even though I really don't like Juve at all. Inter giving a goal and a half at home to Bologna. Looks like a goal and a quarter, probably based on their look ahead to this week. Maybe people are taking that into serious consideration with these soccer lines, and that would be a major improvement on what American sports do, because it seems to be still an issue that a lot of people talk about when they bet things, but lines don't really generally reflect that as much. But these, certainly this week, based on midweek championship games, they have. Next, I have Hellas Verona giving half a goal to Cagliari, who's been pretty poor for, I guess, what feels like a whole year now ever since the lockdown. Only given a quarter, but it's juiced. Probably closes there. Not a lot to say. Don't want to back the Cagliari side. Udinese, I liked last weekend. Didn't play it based on a 5:30 a.m. start time. I had no chance to look at lineups and didn't want to wake up at an insane crack of dawn. Wish I had, because that would have been a nice, easy win. But they're hosting Atalanta, who has been, handed Liverpool the group on a silver platter, being unable to beat the Danish Michelin this midweek, excuse me. I like the Udinese side. Expected them to get a half a goal here. As Atalanta, they're hard to predict. They win sometimes by a lot, but they also don't win very often. They've been kind of scuffling for a couple months now. And they're giving, let's see. Yeah, giving half, but a juiced half right now to Udinese. Makes a lot of sense. I think Udinese, they're getting healthier. Lasagna, Rui de Paul looked really, really good against Lazio in highlights that I saw. And it was the side that was doing a lot of the business. I think late in the year last year, they did sell off some of their players in the transfer window this summer. And I think maybe took a little while to get used to kind of what their new lineups were. But that's certainly a side to be looking at. Hopefully the juice starts moving the other way. Okay, next one is Roma Sassuolo. I made Sassuolo a 3-quarter underdog. Roma, pretty ugly performance against Napoli the past weekend. Did well today with a win against Young Boys, but crazy name for a soccer organization. But anyway, kind of hilarious too. Sassuolo, they really had a poor start against Inter, and that was enough that they really can come back from. Certainly still missing some players also due to COVID or injury or a combination. We'll see what happens with the lineup there. Definitely lean that way, getting a quarter, which is what this line currently is. We'll see what happens with the Roma lineup as well, as it was pretty weak against Napoli, and I didn't necessarily recognize that. Dzeko looked like he was running in mud, having, I think, played for one of the first matches either since COVID or even in his plan. So I know he had played for Bosnia, but was pretty lethargic, didn't really do anything. They were struggling to press, didn't do much against Napoli. Probably have a bounce back here, but definitely leaning the other way when they're giving half your bet a full goal of insurance. Then Parma hosting Benevento. Parma's defense has been pretty good. I made them a 3-quarter goal favorite, which is way off. They're only a quarter. Yeah, probably me liking the way Parma played against the big clubs, but that's a different game when you're playing defensively the whole time. Here against Benevento might be a little bit different. Way off on that one, so not really sure I should even go any further. We go to Crotone and Napoli. I gave Napoli a one goal favorite. Turns out they give a goal and a quarter. Crotone is, and I think a lot of the teams that came up in Serie A are just very inferior compared to the ones that were in there, especially Napoli, who, if they get Osimhen back, their offense turns into a completely different animal. It was pretty good against not much resistance against Roma on Sunday, so we'll see what happens, but probably not a lot for me there. Sampdoria hosting AC Milan. AC Milan seems to be a different offense without Ibrahimovic, but still won today after pretty big deficits. That's got to add some confidence. Sampdoria started out the year playing they had a tough start, but then played pretty well in the stretch, and now I think are kind of floating around, and not many people know what's going to happen with Ranieri's side. I made them a goal underdog. They're getting 3/4 of a goal with the juice. Not a lot I want to do there. And then on Monday we have Fiorentina. I gave them a 3/4 goal favorite against Genova. They are, yeah, that's exactly what they are. And there's not a lot for me to do there, as I don't really like the Genoa side much at all. They seem to always be right around the relegation area, even though they're a big club that's been in Serie A for a long, long time. Probably because they fire their manager every year, it seems. But I guess that's bound to happen if you're struggling in around the relegation zone. There's probably nice to keep your manager around so you can actually consistency, but also something pretty hard to do, I think, when you're struggling towards the bottom of the league every year, as it seems. So then last league I'm going to do tonight, you're probably all happy about that, and I'm happy so I can stop talking, is Ligue 1 in France. I found that they have a red zone package where they're playing all their Sunday games in the mid-morning or whatever it is at the same time, and they have like a flip back and forth, which is hard because not being able to score a touchdown in the red zone is a little bit different, but every corner kick you see in France pretty much. It was pretty cool last weekend to watch. So you start, France is even such a small league, they didn't even put it on a main page on Bet Online, which is kind of funny to me. First one is Marseille giving half a goal on the road at Nimes is my expectation. Nimes is pretty bad and got beaten pretty handily last weekend. But Marseille got 2 penalties this week. I swear, I don't know how the second one, the guy protecting his face from a ball coming right at it, arguably outside of the box, was called outside of the box, didn't even review it. VAR just said it was in. incredible to me that they gave a second penalty for that, swung the game, and made it so Olympique Marseille has something to play for in Champions League. Maybe they can finish third and get into the Europa League, and that's something I think that matters to them. First win in the Champions League, I think, in 2 decades or so was this week, thanks to 2 penalties after falling behind 1-0 and didn't deserve anything. But anyway, I digress. Certainly some interest in the Nîmes side, even though they're not very good, just because Olympique Marseille, they're not able to be trusted really at all. They're juiced, giving a half a goal, and the juice is on their side. Problem is, I think you want a full goal to really trust Nîmes, and I don't think you're getting that, even especially by tomorrow afternoon in the U.S. So probably going to skip that one, but we'll see. Then we move to Saturday, and Rennes and Lens. Rennes has been pretty bad. The Krasnodar Russian Premier League team was pretty bad in midweek, but they've really struggled fitting between the 2 leagues. So I like the Lens side a little bit. Was only expecting to get a quarter. That's what they're getting, but they're getting odds at this point. So maybe that closes a half, and you can make a bet against Rennes, who hasn't won in forever. Might be worth it. Then next I have Montpellier getting a goal and a half at home against PSG. Now, based on seeing these lines all across the place, it might be that PSG is giving a little bit lower than that based on what they have to do midweek, and they might be resting players. I'm not sure that they do that. Very possible. It looks like a goal and a quarter, so a little lower than I expected, but I'm in the ballpark at least. Might close goal and a half based on PSG getting bet more than anybody, as they're always top of the league. Montpellier, they have a decent team, I think. Defense can be a problem, though, and that's not what you want to have against a PSG side. Next, I have Lille giving a quarter to Monaco. Should be a pretty good match. Monaco's been getting some strong lines lately, but I think Lille is better. The problem is that they just played today, and Monaco's been sitting on their laurels ready for this match. I think that helps them quite a bit. It looks like a quarter, but the juice is all on the Monaco side. Might close pick. Not a lot to do there unless you like the Monaco side. I'm not sure that's enough for me, as I do like the Lille side, depending on – had to come back to win today, but maybe we'll see what happens. But I think it's Monaco or nothing at that price, especially for an underdog better like myself. Then I go to Angers Lorient. This is, I think, the red zone window in Ligue 1. I made Angers a quarter favorite. They've been playing pretty well, and it looks like they are minus a half. That makes sense. I was hoping they'd be short again, as they were dogged last week and took care of business. Next is Dijon and Saint Etienne. Saint Etienne has been struggling pretty poorly, besides playing Olympique Lyonnais pretty tight. I expect them to be, a quarter goal favorite, though, at Dijon, who's been bottom of the league and has not been doing much at all. Not a quarter goal favorite, but trending there, as they're pretty very juiced pick 'em right now, and I expect it probably closes at minus a quarter. Then we go to Nantes Strasbourg. I had Nantes as minus a quarter. That's what we have here. Not a lot to say about the one, especially in the interest of time. Bordeaux, who drew PSG, scored 2 goals somehow last match. Pretty impressive, and should be pretty confident of that performance. They seem to either shut people out or give up a bunch of goals. They're never giving up one. It seems either 0 or 2+. Brest was not expected to be very good this year. Have outperformed expectations. Have been playing pretty well. I think getting a quarter on the road is interesting to me, and that's what it is. Though the juice is on the Bordeaux side. Getting a half to a point where they can draw and take a point, and that wins you your full bet. I have some interest in that, but we'll see if it gets there, and it's probably juiced if it does anyway. Next is Reims. Good luck. I'm not a French speaker. Reims giving a quarter to Nice. Vieira might get fired if they lose this match, based on rumors I heard today. Nice has been awful after a decent start to the season, and I think relatively high expectation for their side. They haven't been able to score like people expected, or like they did at the beginning. Since Casper Dolberg got his Ferrari stolen, his house broken into when he went away for international duty, it seemed to have taken the team in a downward spiral. Maybe losing their center back was a problem too. But yeah, Ream's only giving, actually not giving anything. Pick them right now, but the juice on their side. Imagine it closes a quarter, as it looks like it's trending that way. Anyway, and then the nightcap, I think on Sunday, is Mets hosting Olympique Lyonnais. And I like Mets. They've been playing pretty well. Started off with a good performance against a pretty empty PSG side, but they've kept that momentum and really kept going. Getting a half from Lyon is my expectation. At home is interesting. Lyon's got a really strong side and don't have European play to distract them, but might even be a little higher than that based on how strong the Lyon lines have been. Yeah, getting 3/4 of a goal with the juice on that side. So we could potentially see Mets at home getting a full goal at a relatively decent price. Match kicks off. And that's certainly something I could probably see myself betting as Lyon, I think, has been getting some results that they don't necessarily deserve. Angers, especially, out where they ended up winning a match 1-0, where Angers was in control of the whole match, it seemed. I think I lost my stream for a second. Lyon came on and scored like the only time they had the ball the whole second half and really whole game. So definitely like the Mets side, and we'll see what happens with where that line moves. And that closes today, under an hour, a little longer than normal, but I'll probably not go through guessing lines, but it wasn't as embarrassing as I thought this time. Thanks for coming in. Any questions, feel free to send it on Twitter or comment. And if you want to make fun of my hair, please do. It's not getting cut until COVID's gone, I think. So it'll be down to the floor in no time. Anyway, thanks for coming. Have a great evening. Talk to you soon, and adios.